You have 30 days. 30 days where your scattered attention could either build a new life or maintain the one you're trying to escape. Most people fail not because they lack time, but because they treat focus like it's optional. They scroll, they drift, they chase comfort. And then they wonder why years pass and nothing changes. Let me tell you something that will shake you if you're ready to hear it. The problem isn't that you don't have direction. The problem is that you have too many directions and no commitment to one. You're standing at a crossroads, but you keep looking back at the road you already walked. You're trapped in analysis, trapped in preparation, trapped in the addiction of feeling busy without being effective. And deep down, you know it. You wake up and the first thing you do is reach for distraction. Your phone, your feed, your opinions of strangers. You don't even know what you want anymore because you've been living according to what everyone else says you should want. You've been trained to consume instead of create, to react instead of respond, to wait for permission instead of taking ownership. And every single day that you give your attention to what doesn't matter, you are voting for a life you don't want. You are building someone else's dream with your most valuable resource. Time is loud, but attention is everything. Time will pass whether you focus or not. But what you focus on will determine whether you arrive somewhere meaningful or nowhere at all. There's a pain that sits in the chest of every person who knows they were made for more but keeps choosing less. It's not dramatic. It's quiet. It's the ache of unfulfilled potential. The weight of promises you made to yourself that you didn't keep. The shame of knowing you had a chance and you let it slip because comfort felt easier than commitment. You felt it. That moment when you're alone and the noise stops and you have to face the truth. You're not where you thought you'd be. You're not who you said you'd become. And the worst part is that you can't blame anyone else. You had the time. You had the opportunity. What you didn't have was focus. You were everywhere and nowhere. Busy but not productive. Moving but not progressing. And now you're here, listening, searching, hoping that something will finally click. Let me take you somewhere. Imagine a seed buried in the ground. It's dark, it's alone. It feels nothing but pressure and weight. If that seed could think it would believe it's dying. But what's actually happening is that it's being positioned. The darkness isn't punishment. It's preparation. The pressure isn't crushing it. It's activating something inside it that cannot be activated any other way. That seed doesn't need light yet. It needs focus. It needs to push in one direction. Down first, roots before fruit, depth before height. And when it finally breaks through the soil, it doesn't come up scattered. It comes up singular. One shoot, one focus, one direction. That's what these 30 days are. Not a challenge to do everything. A challenge to do one thing so deeply that it transforms everything. You've been told that multitasking is a skill. It's not. It's a trap. It's the illusion of productivity that keeps you from mastery. The manufacturer of your life didn't design you to be average at 10 things. You were designed to be exceptional at the thing you were created for. And the only way to find that thing is to stop doing everything else. Stop saying yes to opportunities that scatter you. Stop trying to be everywhere. Stop posting your goals for applause. Start moving in silence. Start honoring the vision that lives inside you, even when no one else sees it yet. Because the world doesn't reward noise, it rewards depth. It rewards the person who stayed focused when everyone else got distracted. I want to tell you about a craftsman I once heard of. He was known across the land for making the sharpest blades anyone had ever seen. People would travel for weeks just to watch him work. And when they arrived, they were confused because what they saw didn't look impressive. He would take one piece of metal and heat it. Then he would hammer it. Then he would heat it again, over and over. The same motion, the same focus, for hours, for days. And people would ask him why he didn't work on multiple blades at once, why he didn't speed up the process. And he would smile and say this: if I divide my attention, I create average tools. But if I give all of my focus to this one blade, I create something that will last generations. You are that blade. And these 30 days are the fire. The question is whether you'll allow the process to refine you or whether you'll pull yourself out too early because the heat feels uncomfortable. Here's what nobody tells you. The people who changed their lives in 30 days didn't suddenly gain willpower. They didn't find motivation. What they found was clarity. And clarity comes from subtraction, not addition. They stopped trying to fix everything and they started focusing on the one thing that if changed would change everything else. For some it was their morning. For others it was their circle. For some it was their thought life. But whatever it was, they committed fully. They didn't dabble. They didn't test the waters. They dove in. And at first it felt extreme. It felt lonely. It felt like they were missing out. But somewhere around day 7, something shifted. The noise got quieter. The path got clearer. And by day 30, they didn't recognize the person they used to be. Before I continue, answer one question honestly. When was the last time you finished something you started without distraction, without quitting, without making excuses? When was the last time you committed to one path and refused to look sideways, no matter how tempting the detour looked? If you can't answer that, then you're living in reaction mode. You're not leading your life, you're letting it lead you. And that's why you feel stuck. That's why you feel restless. Because deep down your soul knows you were made to build, not just consume. To create, not just comment. To lead, not just follow. If you're still listening, something inside you is waking up. And that something is tired of the excuses. It's tired of the delays. It's ready to align. It's ready to focus. It's ready to become. Let me tell you what focus really is. Focus isn't about doing more. It's about doing less with more intensity. It's about saying no to good things so you can say yes to the right thing. And here's the truth most people miss. Good is the enemy of great. You've been filling your life with good opportunities, good people, good distractions. And that's exactly why you haven't reached greatness. Because greatness requires space. It requires margin. It requires the courage to cut away everything that doesn't serve the vision. And that's terrifying. Because when you cut away the noise, you're left with yourself, your thoughts, your fears, your truth. And most people would rather stay busy than face that. There's a season every strong person goes through that no one talks about. It's the season of isolation. Not because they were rejected, but because they chose it. They looked at their circle and realized that not everyone can go where they're going. They looked at their habits and realized that not everything that feels good is good for them. They looked at their calendar and realized they had been giving their best hours to things that didn't matter. And so they withdrew. They got quiet. They stopped explaining. They stopped defending. They just focused. And people called them distant. People said they changed, and they did change. They became selective. They became intentional. They became dangerous to mediocrity. Think about a lion cub. When it's born, it doesn't hunt. It plays. It wrestles with its siblings. It stays close to its mother. But there comes a moment when the mother stops feeding it. She doesn't do this to be cruel. She does it to activate instinct. The cub gets hungry, and hunger forces focus. It stops playing. It starts watching. It starts learning. And one day it makes its first kill. Not because someone taught it step by step, but because the instinct that was always inside it finally got activated by necessity. You're that cub, and these 30 days are your hunger. Not physical hunger, soul hunger. The hunger for change, for growth, for alignment. And if you let that hunger guide you instead of numbing it with distraction, you will discover abilities you didn't know you had. Here's what happens when you commit to 30 days of focus. The first week is war. Everything in you will want to quit. You'll feel uncomfortable. You'll feel like you're missing out. Your mind will give you 1,000 reasons why tomorrow is a better day to start. Push through. The second week, you'll start to feel different, clearer, lighter. You'll notice that the things that used to pull you don't pull anymore. The people who used to drain you don't affect you the same way. You're building immunity to distraction. By the third week, you'll start seeing results. Not huge, not dramatic, but real. You'll look back and realize you've done more in 20 days than you did in the last 6 months. And that will fuel you. By the fourth week, you won't want to stop. Because you'll realize that focus isn't a punishment. It's freedom. It's the fastest way to the life you've been dreaming about. You grow in silence. You heal in silence. You rise in silence. The world celebrates the outcome, but it never sees the process. It never sees the early mornings, the late nights, the moments you wanted to quit but didn't, the moments you were tired but you pushed anyway, the moments you were alone but you stayed focused. That's where transformation happens. Not on the stage, not in the spotlight, in the silence, in the unseen, in the hours no one applauds. And if you can fall in love with that process, if you can honor the silence instead of resenting it, you will become unstoppable. Let me tell you what I've learned. Every person who achieved something significant did it by ignoring everything else for a season. They didn't balance. They didn't juggle. They obsessed. They locked in. They gave everything to one vision, one goal, one mission. And people thought they were crazy. People said they were too intense, too focused, too extreme. But those people are now living the life that everyone else wishes they had. Because they understood something that most people don't. You can't build an empire in your spare time. You can't transform your life with leftover energy. You can't become who you're meant to be by giving partial attention. You have to go all in. You have to burn the ships. You have to commit so fully that failure isn't an option because there's no backup plan. I want you to imagine a potter working with clay. He takes a lump of shapeless mess and he puts it on a wheel. Then he applies pressure. He pushes, he molds, he shapes. And the clay doesn't get to choose whether it likes the pressure. The pressure is what turns it from a lump into a masterpiece. But here's the key. If the clay is moving in multiple directions at once, it can't be shaped. It has to stay centered. It has to stay focused on the wheel. You are that clay, and life is applying pressure right now. The question is, are you centered or are you spinning out in every direction? Because if you're scattered, the pressure will break you. But if you're focused, the pressure will shape you into something beautiful. People ask me all the time, how do I know what to focus on? And my answer is always the same. You already know. Deep down you know. That thing that keeps showing up in your thoughts. That dream that won't leave you alone. That idea that excites you and terrifies you at the same time. That's it. That's your focus. But you've been ignoring it because it feels too big, too risky, too uncertain. And so you've been giving your attention to smaller, safer things. Things that don't require courage. Things that don't require sacrifice. And that's why you're stuck. Because your soul is pulling you toward greatness, but your mind is keeping you in comfort. And you can't have both. You have to choose. 30 days, 4 weeks, 720 hours. It's not a long time, but it's enough. It's enough to break an addiction. It's enough to build a habit. It's enough to shift your identity. It's enough to prove to yourself that you're not who you used to be. But only if you treat it like it matters. Only if you guard it. Only if you protect it from the thieves of distraction and delay. Because the enemy of your future isn't failure. It's drift. It's the slow compromise. The little yes to things that don't matter. The small detours that turn into dead ends. You don't lose your destiny in one moment. You lose it in 1,000 small moments where you chose comfort over commitment. Let me tell you what focus does. Focus turns average into elite. It turns potential into performance. It turns dreaming into doing. Because when you focus, you stop wishing and you start building. You stop talking and you start creating. You stop waiting for permission and you start taking ownership, and people will notice. Not because you're louder, but because you're different. You carry yourself differently. You speak differently. You move differently. Because you're no longer scattered, you're aligned. And alignment is magnetic. It attracts the right opportunities, the right people, the right resources. Not because you're chasing them, but because you're finally ready for them. Here's the truth. Most people never become who they were meant to be because they never commit to the process. They start strong. They talk about change. They make promises. But when it gets hard, when it gets uncomfortable, when no one's watching, they quit. They go back to what's familiar. They go back to what's easy. And they wonder why nothing changes. You can't microwave transformation. You can't skip the process. You have to go through it. You have to honor it. You have to stay focused even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. Because feelings lie. Feelings will tell you to quit. Feelings will tell you it's not worth it. But your future self will thank you for pushing through. I want you to close your eyes for a second and imagine yourself 30 days from now. Not who you hope to be, but who you will be if you actually commit, if you actually focus, if you actually follow through. You're standing taller. You're speaking with more authority. You're moving with more confidence. You're not the same person. Because you prove something to yourself. You prove that you can finish what you start. You prove that you have discipline. You prove that you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're a creator of your reality. And that changes everything. Because once you know you can do it, once you know you have that power in you, nothing can stop you. But here's the warning. If you walk away from this message and do nothing, if you let this moment pass, if you go back to the same habits, the same distractions, the same excuses, you will regret it. Not today. Not tomorrow. But one day. One day you'll look back and realize that you had the chance. You had the clarity. You had the conviction. But you didn't act. And that regret will hurt more than any temporary discomfort you're avoiding right now. So don't let that be your story. Don't let this be another message you heard and forgot. Let this be the moment you decided. The moment you committed. The moment you said enough. 30 days. That's all I'm asking. 30 days of ruthless focus. 30 days of saying no to distraction. 30 days of honoring the vision. 30 days of becoming who you were created to be. And if you do that, if you truly do that, everything changes. your relationships change. Your income changes. Your confidence changes. Your future changes. Because you're no longer the person who talks about change. You're the person who creates it. You're no longer the person who waits for the right moment. You're the person who makes the moment right. You're no longer the person who hopes for a better life. You're the person who builds it. So let me ask you one final question. Are you ready? Are you ready to stop playing small? Are you ready to stop making excuses? Are you ready to stop waiting for permission? Are you ready to take the next 30 days and turn them into the foundation of the rest of your life? Because if you truly are, then nothing can stop you. Not your past, not your fear, not your doubt, nothing. You were made for this. You were built for this. And it's time to prove it. Not to me, not to anyone else, to yourself. 30 days, one focus. Everything changes. If this message spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. And if you want more messages that grow your soul, subscribe, because your journey has just begun.